NBA players that regretted having a beef with Luka. Luka Doncic has played less than 2 seasons in the NBA, and he's already had his fair share of interesting moments on the court. Unlike LeBron James, who hadn't been ejected from a game until his 15th season, Luka tasted ejection in his first season in the league. At first, Luka might seem like a pushover, but if you push his buttons, you'll see that he's a fiery competitor that will let his passion get the best of him at times. Luka has a long history of fighting on the court, whether that's with referees or the opposition. Here are times that Luka Doncic got in a beef with players around the league. Keep watching to see why these players regretted ever beefing with Luka in the first place. Before the NBA, Luka was getting a beef with players internationally. Doncic played for Real Madrid in the EuroLeague, and in a game against Valencia, with Real Madrid up 24-18, Luka Doncic was ejected from the game for hitting his opponent Tibor Pleiss in the face. After a scramble for the ball, Real Madrid came away with the ball at center court, where the outlet pass was thrown to Luka. The whistle had already been blown from the scramble on the floor, but Luka and Pleiss were still playing as the whistle was blown. Luka went up for the layup and used his left arm to create space. His left arm hit Pleiss, and Pleiss's face was then gushing blood from the top of his nose. Luka wasn't ejected from the game at this point, but later in the game, things escalated just a little bit. Luka drove middle and was called for a charging violation. During this entire game, Luka was out of sync and was playing like a madman. Luka quickly got up to complain about the call and lost his cool. When he lost his composure, he was ejected from the game. Luka started to walk off the court, looked back the other way, and then walked back onto the court, pointing at the referee. Luka went back to talk to the referee face to face, arguing a call and pointing at himself while pleading his case. Finally, Luka left the court, but made sure to ask for the referees to look at the replay. While walking off, Luka started kicking the tunnel tent while 3 men in suits walked behind and led Luka to the locker room. The entire Pacers team. Luka will let his passion and drive lead him to do some crazy things on the basketball court. We will see plenty of ejections throughout his time in the NBA. We're already talking about Luka's beef in the NBA, and he hasn't even played 2 full seasons yet thanks to the coronavirus outbreak. In a game against the Indiana Pacers on January 19, 2019, Luka was ejected from the game for kicking the basketball in the stands. In Europe, soccer is a beloved sport, but in America, it's the forgotten sport. The Pacers' defensive game plan had Luka looking for answers the second he got on the court, with Miles Turner and Victor Oladipo playing very good defense on Luka. Luka already had a technical foul at the end of the first half for arguing about a potential reach-in foul. That technical foul would soon mean more in the second half. Luka can become overly impatient when things aren't going his way on the court. He's a passionate player with a lot of heart. Although he can be intense, Luka must realize that every day won't be his day. He'll have to keep his cool when teams have a good defensive game plan against him. It'll be interesting to see if Luka can overcome great defense and make a run at a championship one day. Luka will soon realize that the playoffs is when the real defense comes out in the NBA. Luka hasn't experienced the NBA playoffs like that just yet. Jaylen Brown. With the Mavericks leading the Celtics 64-60 in the third quarter of his rookie season, Al Horford threw an outlet pass to Jaylen Brown. But Luka got in the middle of the pass and stole the ball and found DeAndre Jordan for the slam dunk. After the dunk, Luka was running back on defense before Celtics guard Jaylen Brown pushed Doncic to the ground with his right shoulder. After Luka fell to the ground, Brown put his hands up acting like he didn't do anything, but replay clearly showed that Brown's intention was to use his right shoulder to drop Luka. Brown was unhappy that Doncic stole the ball and made a play on Al Horford's pass. Once Luka hit the ground, the referees blew their whistles to stop play as the scene started to escalate in the middle of the floor. Brown instantly walked to Luka and looked down on him while Doncic got up. Luka then shoved Brown and started talking smack. Marcus Morris Sr. of the Celtics also got involved with a slight push on Luka before Luka walked away. Jaylen Brown ultimately got away with a dirty play, as both players were given technical fouls with no ejections. Brown's push was dirty enough for an ejection, but the referees didn't see it that way. What was lost in the entire fight was DeAndre Jordan getting a technical foul for hanging on the rim while he dunked Luka's pass. It's kind of lame how the referees saw a player hang on the rim, but didn't see a center court shoulder from Brown. It's also weird how both plays resulted in the same penalty. But that's basketball for you. When the play was over, the Mavericks ended up with 2 technical fouls while the Celtics had just 1. Brown and Doncic have no hard feelings with each other to this day. Both young guys respect each other, and it was just the heat of the moment play. Kelly Oubre. On January 9, 2019, with the Suns up 27-26 on the Mavericks, Kelly Oubre scored on a 2-1 fast break against Luka. After the play, Oubre ran back and waited for Doncic. When Luka crossed half court to bring the ball up, Oubre took both of his hands and hit the floor, taunting Luka to bring it. Luka saw the hand slaps hit the floor and nodded at Oubre. This is what you would call a bad basketball decision. Luka then ran a set play with Tim Hardaway Jr. catching at the perimeter, and where he then handed it back off to Luka. Oubre stayed connected to Luka, so Luka drove and pulled back for an unbalanced fadeaway jumper, with Oubre right in his face, and swished it off one foot. Doncic ran quickly back and smiled after he had made Oubre look like a fool for pounding the hardwood floor. He asked Luka to bring it, and Luka brought it with one of the best fadeaway jumpers we've seen in quite some time. After the play was over, the two players joked about it, and Oubre and Luka had no hard feelings for one another. One thing's clear though, don't ever upset Luka on the court, because he will make you pay. Marquese Chriss. On December 29, 2019, with the Dallas Mavericks up 110-91 against the Golden State Warriors, Luka drove to the basket and was blocked by Marquese Chriss at the rim. Luka immediately smiled in embarrassment. However, Luka's teammate Justin Jackson pulled down the rebound from the block and missed a floater where Chriss got the rebound. After the block, Chriss had some choice words for Luka. Once Chriss brought down the rebound, Luka started reaching in, frustrated about how the play had turned out. As other players started poking at the ball, Chriss let go of it, and it went into Kai Bowman's hands and in the Warriors' possession. However, as Bowman moved the ball up the floor, Chriss and Luka stayed on the other end of the court beefing. The referees had to blow the whistle, while the Warriors were presumably on a 3-on-2 fast break opportunity. In front of the Warriors bench, Luka antagonized Chriss, saying, "Come on, while the refs did their best to push Luka away from Chriss so things wouldn't escalate. Behind him, Draymond was quietly clapping and enjoying the feud between Luka and Chriss. He was cheering them on to go at it, while the Warriors' assistant coaches pushed their players back to the bench to limit the fines and suspensions that could have taken place. After the altercation, Luka was held back by his teammates and still animated and frustrated while walking back to the bench. Chriss started to plead his case to the referees, but when looking at the replay, it was Chriss that came away with the loudest push of the night, throwing Doncic into the seats behind the hoop. To recap, this fight started on the rebound on the block shot by Chriss. After the block, Chriss had something to say, and when Chriss brought down the rebound from Jackson's shot, Luka whacked Chriss, trying to get the ball out of his hands. Kristaps Porzingis whacked Chriss after Luka, and then Luka grabbed Chris's arm so he couldn't get the ball, so Chriss decided to push Luka into the stands. With a 110-91 lead, this fight was likely unnecessary, but you have to appreciate each player's passion for the game. I don't think we'll ever see Chriss or Luka on the same team after this one. Bradley Beal. With the Mavericks leading 104-97 over the Wizards with 1 minute and 9 seconds to play, Bradley Beal started to push Luka going down the court. Luka and Beal were both aggravated with each other throughout the game, and both argued the double technicals, pleading their case. Then Beal waved off the officials and got a second technical foul and was thrown out of the game. Immediately, Luka started clapping, and this time intelligently walked away. When Beal had to walk off, Luka came in and gave Beal a fake hug, and Beal tried to push away from it to greet his other teammates and wish them luck to finish the game. Terrence Mann. With the Mavericks leading the Clippers 67-56 in a 2019 preseason game in October, Luka was given a handoff from Tim Hardaway Jr., where he was met by Terrence Mann of the Clippers. Surprised with the little room he had, Luka was called for a travel. Mann, excited about the play he had made, smacked the ball out of Luka's hands while Luka pleaded his case as to why he didn't travel. As Mann smacked the ball out of Luka's hand, Luka immediately went face-to-face with Mann, unhappy about what had just taken place. As Luka and Mann got face-to-face, Mann yelled, "What's up?" and shoved Doncic away with his right forearm. Luka tried pushing Mann back, while the referees tried to break up the two players. Assistant coaches from both teams rushed to save their player from any suspensions that would cost them part of the season. As Luka was being held back by his assistant coaches, he still had choice words for Mann. With Luka walking back to his bench, his lips read, "Let's go," still distraught about what had taken place. The funniest part of the entire exchange was Boban Marjanovic, the 7-foot, 4-inch center, coming in to try to break up the fight. Nobody will ever start a fight with Marjanovic. Mann and Luka were given technical fouls, and the game continued with nothing more happening. Dwayne Dedmon. With the Mavericks up 109-100 against the Hawks in December of 2018, Dwayne Dedmon had a silly closeout on Doncic. Dedmon baited into Luka's pump fake, jumped in the air, almost fell on Luka, and then as Luka looked to drive, Dedmon grabbed Luka by the arm, preventing any easy bucket. When the foul was called, Luka, clearly irritated, dribbled the ball really hard and turned around to plead his case. After the hard dribble, while walking back, Luka said some words to the Hawks players and rolled the ball over to Dedmon. The ball rolled onto Dedmon's feet, where the referee picked it up and gave out a double technical foul to both players. The rest of the NBA. On January 5, 2020, Mavericks head coach Rick Carlisle admitted that Doncic is getting manhandled on the court lately. After a 123-120 loss to the Charlotte Hornets, Carlisle spoke to ESPN about how teams have been playing against Doncic. They're beating the crap out of him. He's handling it well, but teams are taking liberties on him. We saw it with Dirk Nowitzki for 20 years here, my 11 years, all the time, taking physical liberties on him, trying to knock him down, beat him up, stuff like that. It's not good. It's not good. He's handling it very well, but it's happening every game. Carlisle has tried to go to the referees and alert them of how teams have played Luka. Carlisle said, "We gotta make the officials aware of it constantly. What happens is, teams will come in and they'll set a level of aggressiveness. There's a level where it's so physical that they only call a certain number of fouls. We've gotta be able to play like that. We've got an aggressive team, but taking liberties is not good. He's got scratches on his arms all the time and stuff like that. It's not good." Since the reports came out about what Rick Carlisle had said, Luka said he's trying to keep a level head about it. He admitted, "It's true, I'm not going to lie, but it's just basketball. It's a physical game. If the refs see it, they're gonna call it. If they don't see it, they're not gonna call it. But I've just got to keep going. Just keep going." We've already seen how frustrated Luka can get on an NBA court, but hearing that teams are playing more aggressively on Luka could be the reason that Luka loses his cool against other players more times than not.